Welcome to Great Overload. One thing I want to talk about before we get into all the CES content that is going to be happening here soon is Samsung's Foundries are getting back some customers or taking away from TSMC. Now, I don't see this as a TSMC downside at all. TSMC is has been the leader by far and away now for a little while, and everyone's been trying to go to them for all their processes. So Samsung would have had a chance here a couple, what was it, not last generation, but the generation before of Nvidia chips. They were on 8 nanometer Samsung, but they kind of fumbled and they mismanaged stuff. And Samsung really screwed up to not keep Nvidia as a, I would say, premier partner in their foundry facilities. Now, fast forward to where we are today. Samsung has released two generations on TSMC, and now we're going to jump to where they may be going to Samsung again. Also, Qualcomm may be doing that as well, going from the 2 nanometer on TSMC, or instead of using 2 nanometer in TSMC, going to 2 nanometer on Samsung. And this is, I think good for multiple reasons. One, it won't be just one foundry system that seems to be far and away the leader in everything, right? TSMC may have had delays. I know it's hard to tell, right? You see reports of delays, but if they're still by far and away ahead of everybody else, is that really a delay worth noting, or is it just something that they had to work through, right? And then you have Samsung that's been trying to catch up. You also have Intel as well. Global Foundries is kind of they're missing here, and maybe they're just going to always just buy the tech now from other companies and then just have their fabs there. I really hope that they don't go away, but not having a leading edge node can get you into a scenario where you're looking at, do we just do old stuff for all these old nodes, which are used a lot for all these other customers, or do we ever get back in the leading edge game? But getting back to Nvidia and Qualcomm going to at least use, or looking rumored to, wanting to use some of the 2 nanometer process from Samsung here, it can give a little bit of leverage to, Nvidia and Qualcomm when negotiating against these two companies, right, to get a better price. And one thing as well I'd like to see is if they are on both 2 nanometer process, from Samsung and from TSMC, is I actually want to see the performance difference. How much better is one process over the other? That would be really cool to see. And I think as the CHIPS Act here in the United States and Intel keeps rounding out its facilities, I can see them actually taking on partners for manufacturing, and maybe Nvidia would consider that. Remember, there's a huge feud between Nvidia and Intel that goes back a very long time. So is there something that they'll look past and just use it? And maybe Nvidia isn't really worried, especially if, you know, Intel's in GPUs too, right? As long as those businesses are separate, you're not too worried. But is there something there where they're just going to stick to TSMC and Samsung? That's a whole nother consideration. But this is one thing that I like to see on the diversification of these fabs. It does help innovation. A lot of the innovation throughout the years has came through Intel fabs and with what they've been able to accomplish over the years, and having them kind of get behind a little bit, I think was a detriment because it wasn't pushing forward, because Intel seems to be a really big pusher in the fab space. So having them come back in, and hopefully that they'll be roaring back at some point, because I really don't want one company to go away, unless they're just doing something so horribly bad that they just needs to be scrapped. New company has to come up. But the foundry business is a hard one to come up in, right? The whole process side, creating processors, while that is difficult as well, other companies seem to be coming up, or there's other architectures coming in to fulfill those gaps. Whereas foundry tech, right, it's been consolidating for years, and unless you are willing to put up a huge investment into it, so these 2 nanometers are well over what, $1.5 billion to just put a foundry in the ground. You know, that was one of that $1.5 billion was a couple of years ago, so I'm sure it's a lot more than that to put up these foundries, and you have to fund them, and then make sure it's all working, and then get customers and everything else. So that can be a huge thing to be able to put up a cutting edge node where it leaves only a few companies being able to do that. And with you know Nvidia at least thinking, if they're going to switch back to Samsung for at least part of it, they have to be thinking that this is on performance par where we're okay with it. After what Samsung did last time, that's a pretty big nod that Samsung may be getting something right, and Qualcomm doing it as well. I know Qualcomm, wants the efficiency and stuff like that. Maybe there's also something else with Qualcomm saying, if we use your foundries, you're going to keep, you'll be able to still, you keep using Qualcomm chips in your phones and not just switch to all Samsung chips or whatever else. So that may be part of it too, in the negotiating side of it for Qualcomm. But I'm sure at some point we may hear rumors or something of that coming out as well. So what do you think about the whole Samsung Foundry getting on there? Are you guys, in favor of something like this, of more companies, diversification? I'm actually more interested of how um, I'm, you're getting a little bit more flexible with designs, being able to go to different foundries quicker instead of just going and just sticking with one foundry, which I am a huge fan of being able to have that design that puts into both foundries, TSMC, Samsung, maybe three foundries, Intel, Global Foundries, four. If you can do something like that, that is really interesting to me, because you're cutting down um, the silo effect of, once you choose one, you're stuck. So with that, let me know your thoughts about this, how the Samsung Foundry is going. Do you think that they're going in the right direction? And um, yeah, anything else you have on this topic as well, post it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching Grayville and helping this channel grow. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, as that really does help out the channel. I'm sure next week I will be posting some content here from CES. And until next time, God bless.